Now that the dust has settled from Call of Duty Next, there is a lot to talk about since we've had some time to chew on what Treyarch is bringing to the table with Black Ops 6 Zombies. From the reception of Liberty Falls, to the gameplay look and feel of the mode, as well as how the event has impacted us as a community. So I brought my good friend Donuts in to talk about just that. Let's dive in. So I just want to kind of start just talking about COD Next as a, not necessarily from a zombies point of view, but just from the perspective of a player, from multiplayer, from, you can even talk about Warzone a little bit, but just even the overall sentiment that you were feeling from the event. Just up front, I personally kind of feel a little bit more negatively about COD Next. I don't hate Black Ops 6, but I thought the event kind of fell flat. So I'm kind of curious what other content creators were feeling, because I've seen a mixed reception. So where do you land on this spectrum?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult because I don't remember really tuning into a whole bunch of COD Nexts. I usually do the thing where I just look at the zombies portion and then like, okay, that's all I want, and then get out of there. I think this year was especially weird because, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but they hadn't done any real multiplayer advertising before COD Next. It felt like campaign, and then immediately we went into The Truth Dies and zombie stuff, and then COD Next, which is very weird. So I think there was definitely a disconnect between what like zombie fans knew, what multiplayer people knew, what Warzone people knew. So it definitely, I can't speak in terms of a Warzone player or multiplayer player, but it was good to see kind of our first look at multiplayer. But I mean, I was waiting for zombies, so the multiplayer taking an hour and a half. I was like, come on, let's go. Come on. When zombies.
Agreed. Yeah.
It felt almost like they transitioned a little bit. They were like, and then we're going to do this. And then they just like went back to gameplay and then went back to talking a little bit too much. It felt like a little bit, not drug out, but drug out a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I can't remember many other like COD Next or whatever they had way back in the day, whatever they called it, the COD event, or I forget what it was back in the Modern Warfare 3 days. Might have been COD Next.
You mean like 2010 days or like last year? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what they called it. I think they just had like COD event. I genuinely don't know. But
yeah, I know there was some sort of event, but I don't know if it was public or
I can't remember. All I know is that I felt like this year's COD Next, and this is just a feeling, like I don't have any data to back up this, but I just, it felt very, like you said, it dragged on a lot of spots. I felt like it didn't go very smoothly for them. I think there was a lot of technical issues because there was a lot of like blubbering on and on, bloviating over certain points, and I think they were having some technical issues on the back end. Just for somebody who's done events before, because it felt like they were just dragging their feet quite a bit. And when it came to the multiplayer stuff, I was really shocked at how little marketing multiplayer is getting this year. It's kind of weird.
Very weird.
Usually they're shoving that stuff down our throats, and zombie fans are like, okay, when are we going to get a little bit of anything? And we've been getting overloaded with zombie stuff
so much.
I'm kind of surprised to see this reversal. It's strange, and that kind of pushes me to question number 2 here is like, so how do you feel about zombies? Like, what do you think about it so far?
Right.
Liberty Falls and the or Liberty Balls, or I don't even know what everyone's saying.
Right. I think I remember last thing about COD Next. I think the multiplayer trailer dropped like the day before or something. It was like Tuesday it dropped, and then Wednesday it was there. So that felt very weird. But also, when I play the multiplayer, the Omni movement really is, I mean, to me, a huge change. So I feel like that's a really big core element that they have to market. But after that, it kind of just feels like a solid Call of Duty. So I can kind of see where they don't have many like bullet points for all of this stuff. I mean, how long, you can't really demonstrate like, oh, classic prestige in a COD Next setting. So I think that might be why it kind of felt like there wasn't a lot of visuals to like showcase, hey, here's this new, here's that's new. So I don't know, but interesting to think about for sure. Now, in terms of zombies, I said this in a video that I'm pretty proud of, that I articulated, I think, pretty well. Terminus, when we saw Terminus and everything, I was, after, and I'm sure we'll get into this, after Cold War, Vanguard, Modern Warfare 3, like this game is so big, and I think the developers know it too. But this is the game where they don't have limited dev time. This is the game where they've had, 4 years of development, whatnot. So this really had to be the game to get us back on track and go, hey, this is what Zombies is. This is what Zombies is going to be in the future. And so with that mindset going in, we got Terminus, we got the cool little reveals, we got all of the, awesome marketing in The Truth Dies, the storyline stuff. It was cool to see the characters. I was so surprised, but happily surprised. We got the set crew in Terminus. That was one of my biggest issues. I was so nervous. I had so many videos ready. Like, here's why set crew is important. Come on, we need a set crew, and we got it. And then the atmosphere looked good. The unique boss zombies looked good. A completely not remade map, a completely unique map just made for zombies. And so that kind of ticked off all the boxes that I was nervous about, and I think a lot of the community was nervous about. And then, of course, we have Liberty Falls revealed to everybody all the time at COD Next, and all of those things that we were really excited about. It's kind of the opposite. No set crew, reused bosses, reused wonder weapon. The map doesn't really have that zombie-esque atmosphere, that sort of thing. So that kind of, I think, hit a nerve with the community, and like, oh, that's not what we want. That's the opposite of what we want. Why did we go back here? So now we have one map that's kind of exactly what we want, and one map that's the literal opposite of what we want. And so, of course, the community kind of split here. And I'm kind of split too. I said on my own podcast or whatever, we need to wait till DLC 1 for me to make up my mind and go, okay, here's the direction we're going to go. Either this is kind of like a bonus map that they didn't really like, I don't want to say put a lot of dev time into, but they didn't like weigh those things as positively as they did in Terminus. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm mixed, but I'm excited for more things that I'm nervous about, I think, is my ultimate like end all be all stance.
Okay. That's really fair. And I honestly, I do agree with everything you're saying from a logical standpoint. Like, I think that's a very fair assessment. When I was watching COD Next Liberty Falls gameplay, I don't even know. I should probably go back and check out my stream just to double check. But I kept making like these faces of like, oh man, oh no. I kept doing it over and over because they showed the spiders, then they showed the mangler, then they showed the abomination, then they showed like the daylight crap, and I was just like, and they showed something else, and I kept sighing. And
the little kill feed in the middle of the screen of the HUD.
Kill feed. I mean, I'm not as big of a HUD hater as many others, but I will say when they turned it off, and like, I think you even retweeted some stuff of like showing how the gameplay without it, or it's like, it actually doesn't look as bad when the HUD's gone. It looks more, it does look more like a zombies map, but, and I hate to be cliche about it and take everybody's like titles from their YouTube videos, but it does feel like the war zonification of zombies, and you're just picking up all this crap off the ground, and I don't know. I don't necessarily hate having more stuff to pick up. Like that's kind of the fun thing in zombies. Like, you pick up your power-ups, like you're like buying stuff off the wall. Like it's kind of part of that same gameplay loop, but it's just pushing all of these systems across Call of Duty and making it just feel like this homogenized game mode, where I don't even want to say back in the day, just a few years ago, each mode felt pretty distinct from one another. And when I jumped into multiplayer in Black Ops 4, Black Ops 3, whatever mode or whatever game, I felt like I was an alien. It took me a little bit of time to learn. It took me time to master the maps and understand all the mechanics and how things worked out. It's not like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but I did feel like a fish out of water. But now it's like, okay, I just hop into Warzone. Oh, I know how the armor system works. I know how the ammo crates work. I know how this works. I know how that works. And it just kind of bothers me, and it makes me feel a little bit concerned, because like you, dude, I was totally into it. I was like thinking, you know what? Terminus does have a little bit of that facility vibe. Okay. It kind of reminds me of like D Machine, but like inside of Zetsubo Nishima. Like
Shangri-La or Zetsubo.
Yeah. Which, you know what? Okay, fine.
You've got a flavor to the facility, because,
it does.
Zetsubo was a facility. Darazendraha was a facility. I brought this up. Gorod Krovi is a facility. But if you take the dragons out of Gorod Krovi, it is kind of just a city map. It is kind of just a bland, like whatever. But with the dragons, gotta have that little flavor to it. And I think that's they have the flavor of the 90s, but it's not as potent as it could be or other zombie maps have been.
So okay, let's actually talk about okay, how do I want to set this up? Because I either want to kind of move into core zombie systems with Black Ops 6 and kind of get some of your takes there, or I want to talk about difficulty. What would you rather talk about?
Ooh. I think they're kind of intertwined, honestly.
Okay, well then you just kind of let's talk about the systems, like armor and triple pack-a-punch and point system, and then kind of move that into accessibility with Easter eggs.
Yeah. Well, talking about, well, actually, here, you go first. No. What do you want to start with?
Sure. Okay. So basically, when I was watching Terminus gameplay and I was seeing the systems that, like armor and whatever, it didn't feel super Warzone-y to me. It felt like, okay, sure, we're going to have some of these cross game systems. That's not my favorite, but it looks so much like a zombies map and it looks so much like zombies gameplay that I'm not really too stressed about it. But when I saw it in Liberty Falls, then it looked super easy. It looked like, Chopper and Dalek and whoever else were getting to round 50 almost on their first playthrough, which is, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like I could probably get to round 30 on my first playthrough on like any BO4 map or whatever, but that's kind of besides the point. It's like, round 50, getting the jet gun, not even having to tackle Pack-a-Punch with some quest. It's like, just go up there and buy it, buy the little purple butthole. It's like, it's just like the worst door I've ever seen in my life. Holy crap.
It looks so sick the way, it does look like a little butthole actually.
It does.
But I think I like the seamless transition. I think that's stuck in my brain. I think it's so cool to just, the first thing I do, I'm going to walk back and forth like 18 times, like back and forth between the barrier. Like we're in the dark ether. Now we're in the normal. Now we're in the dark ether. Now we're back.
It is cool. I like, and they can take advantage of like, PlayStation 5's SSD and stuff to make that stuff cool. But I see all that and I'm like, these systems are just made for like accessibility and the casual. And I have conflicting feelings about the casual. So
do I.
Yeah. So I just kind of threw a bunch of stuff at you. Like, how do you feel about these?
Yeah, I think when, we're talking about, and this might tie in pretty well. A lot of people ask me about like, the classic mode, the leaked classic mode. You have the standard, the story, and then
that's a question on my list. So,
well, if there were to be a classic, I thought about this. If there were to be a classic thing, like straight up classic zombies, and to me, classic zombies is like Black Ops 3 and earlier. I know sometimes in my Guess the Zombie Map videos, they're like, Black Ops 3 map, you like new zombies? I'm like, Black Ops 3 was 8 years ago.
No, you're right.
But
I think that's the cutoff for sure.
Built in Cold War are so intertwined with one another, it's hard to peel one away without affecting another one. So like the crafting system with the salvage system, and now the armor with the point system and the perk system with the point system. I feel like they're all so delicately balanced on themselves that it's hard to directly make a big sweeping change, which is, I think, is just an interesting point. But in terms of the point system, I said that I've often defended the new point system quite a bit because, I've said the old point system is unintuitive. They reward you for not killing zombies instead of actually killing zombies. You get more points if you don't kill zombies, which doesn't make like intuitive sense. But I've also said that I, along with everyone else on the planet, really loves that little mini game of, well, I'm going to buy this weapon to get more points so that I'm better set up. But then again, if we were to do that in Cold War, because of the way the Pack-a-Punch works, because you need 50,000 points for one fully Pack-a-Punched weapon, you need 100,000 points for two Pack-a-Punched weapons, and 70,000 points for all of your perks or something like that. The person who then, if we had the old point system, all of us who like point whore and do really good with like weak weapons and SMGs and all that stuff, we'd get set up way, way, way earlier than the person who's using the shotguns or the powerful weapons or the not so good point guns. And that sort of discrepancy, I think the developers are trying to mitigate a little bit. But and then we get to like the crafting table, and with the crafting table, I feel like I think overall it's a net positive in the sense that it allows players to have fun, because calling in kill streaks, in my opinion, is fun. I still get like a stupid smile on my face when I call in a chopper gunner and just kill all these hordes of zombies and everything, and a death machine is always fun. But the loss that the crafting table does to the game mode is that it loses that really emotional and map specific kind of side quest, because and I made this comparison in my own podcast just recently, in Gorod Krovi you've got the Dragon Strike controller, you've got the Gauntlet of Siegfried, you've got the Dragon Shield, and you go on a quest in the map itself to get those cool little benefits. But in Cold War, and now in Black Ops 6 or in Vanguard, you just have it because you just waited enough rounds to have enough salvage, and that just doesn't feel as special. And so, yes, the Cold War and Black Ops 6 systems are more accessible, but they almost feel, and I think people use the word lazy. I don't think it's lazy. I think cheap. I think cheap is a more accurate representation of how I feel about certain things like this, where it's not just, oh, they just copy paste everything. No, it's just kind of like they built it, they designed it, but it does feel kind of cheap. So the armor system, the point system, they have a little bit of cheap feeling because of how accessible they are. But each one individually, I kind of understand from a design decision, but it's very weird. It's very, I feel two ways about it. I think some things add more fun. Some things, it just feels a little tedious for me. I still think the armor system's a little weird. I don't hate it because it's from Warzone, but it's just, I don't know. It makes health scaling very weird to me. I don't know.
So I, the word I like to use instead of like cheap or lazy or whatever is I like to use the word passive. I just think it's all passive grinding. Yeah. It's designed for grinding, and just play the game and you'll get your rewards by surviving.
Eventually.
Yeah. And so I think that passivity creates a low threshold for getting rewards, and it's like it's always constantly like hitting. I know people are always like, oh, the dopamine hits, but it's kind of what it's doing. It's like
it's exactly what they designed it for.
Yeah, you kill, you get to round 5, oh, you can buy, one like some grenades from the crafting table, and you can pack a punch your weapon. And it's like, oh, then you get to round 20, and now you're at pack a punch tier 2, but you get to round 45. Well, now you'll have everything, and you can craft whatever you want. So it's just passive, and I really like the quest. And I was hoping so let's just go back to Terminus and comparing Liberty Falls and Terminus for a second. When I saw the Mangler gun or whatever they called, and they're like, oh my God, you can kill the Mangler, or you can, I thought that's
injection, or
the mutant injection. I figured mutant injections would be at the table. That I was okay with. Right. But then I was like,
you thought the gun was just for the Mangler on Terminus?
Yes. I thought you would shoot the Mangler and it would be, you would just pick it up and kill him. I didn't know you'd be able to craft it too. So I was like, that's kind of lame. And then they did it on Liberty Falls too. And I was like, that's even more lame. Why not have it be a mega abomination, like something? I don't know. Like maybe it's a little crystal that he drops or she drops. I don't know what the gender is of the frickin' abomination, but she drops like a crystal and you grab it and it like shoots the beam for a little bit before it dies. And so I was hoping for more unique features per map, and it's like, okay, even if it's at the table, at least have other ways to get it through quests, or maybe there's like a way that I can just get like a boatload of salvage through a quest or something like that. I just, with Cold War systems, since they're designed for passive gameplay, and I just don't understand how they can ever give us rewards for anything that are worthwhile. I don't. And I don't understand how Gobblegums can fit in either.
No, I think that's actually exactly what I feel the same way about side quests, because I was thinking about side quests the other day, and I'm like, how could they make any side, like the best side quest in my opinion in Cold War is Maurador Toten's like target step, where you stand on the roof of the building and then the targets appear and you shoot it and you get an ether wrench. I think that's my favorite one, or the bunny from Maurador Toten's pretty fun too. But the quests, the rewards you get, it's just like salvage and like a random gun and like maybe a perk.
Yeah.
But the problem is you're going to get all of that stuff eventually. You're going to get a legendary weapon eventually. You're going to get all the perks eventually. And on Revelations or Zetsubo, in order to get all of the perks, you have to do the side quest. In order to get a bonus perk, you have to do the side quest. And that's a special bonus perk. That's outside of the normal realm of the gameplay. So it was this special thing. And so I think an equivalent might be in Black Ops 6, having a side quest somewhere where you unlock this armory or something and you get golden armor. And then boom, now you've got golden armor. But then you go down and now it's gone. But you have that extra thing. Or they add in a special, like, I don't know what above legendary would be, like a mystic kind of weapon where if you go down, you lose the like mystic weapon level right there. But that could be something that just take the mechanics they have and just do another one. I don't know how you do the perks. Maybe you get like a free perk with all the augments on it or something and it glows or, whatever. But yeah, I think that's definitely something that they are going to have to work out because like you said, if a Mangler cannon's on every single map, then it's nothing special. I thought when Mauer Toten came out, we were getting Casimirs. Oh, cool. They're going to be nice
special
specific
for
to this
Mauer.
map.
Yep.
Nope. It's on all of them. And I know this was a thing way back in the day. I remember Rad Austin making a video about Black Ops 4 and how all of the weapons, because of weapon kits, all the weapons were on all the maps and all the specialists were on all the maps and all the perks were on all the maps. And before then, we really didn't have that. We had map-specific perks, map-specific weapons, map-specific specialists. And at the time, I was like, he has a point, but I kind of want to see what it's like to have all the weapons and all the specialists on every single map. You add in a new perk and you go back to the old map and you can replay it, and it's really nice. So I do like that aspect of it, but it's almost too homogenous. It's almost too samey with every single map. Each map needs to have its own identity, and they used to have that with their own bosses, wonder weapons, equipment, and kill streaks perks even. So I think I'm interested to see. That's going to be the last, I think, big hurdle that they need to do in order to make all of these maps really shine and stand apart from each other and apart from the rest of the catalog of the zombie maps that we have now.
Yeah. And I really agree with you. I think that, well, I don't know if you want each map to have its own special thing, but I liked that better for the long term. But Lego kind of put this in my ear one day. He's like during the live service, the year of the game, like while it's all out, having everything on every map is really fun. But then going back to it later, it's not as fun because now you don't have that special reason. And so that did kind of change my mind a little bit. But at the same time, even if they like kind of brought some of the systems like across every map, but just made them a little bit unique, like we were talking about with maybe a mangler gun on Terminus, but like a mega abomination, laser beam, whatever it is. Like even if it's just that minimal, at least it makes it somewhat special. But to comment on your side quest rewards system, the problem that Treyarch runs into is they're like, no, here is everything that we have to offer to make you super overpowered, and then that's the ceiling, and you can get everything inside of the game. You can get all 10 perks in the game. You can get triple pack-a-punch in the game. So you need to have a ceiling, and then the reward needs to push you past that ceiling.
Yes.
And if they can't do that properly, then there's never going to be any reason for any side quest ever.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. There is some value in side quests that make you progress faster. I think that's perfectly reasonable, but that can't be the core of what side quests are.
It can be the smaller ones.
Yeah, exactly. Before Cold War, as weird as it sounds, I might have been a fake zombie fan, I guess, because I never did high rounds. I mean, I liked high rounds. I just never had the time for them. And I never did main quests or really main Easter eggs or any sorts of the thing. So my favorite part of the gameplay was getting Pack-a-Punch, getting power, turning on everything, and doing the side quests and all that stuff. And in Cold War, if you were to do that, because of the objective markers for all the Pack-a-Punch quests, they bug me to death. We're not that stupid. We don't need that, like we're. So
I still will never understand that stuff.
Oh man. But like that sort of thing, like when you make the progression super easy, it's kind of like, well, now it's just kind of bland. Now it's just kind of boring. Like, okay, because like we said, eventually we're just going to get everything. So there's really nothing to progress towards. And why would you play Machine over Forsaken? Like, what
there's
do
no
those
reason.
two maps different? If you're not doing the main quest, if you're just playing zombies, like, what are like maybe the Wonder Weapon, because that's the last thing, that's the map specific to it, but everything else is exactly the same. You know, the layout's different, Wonder Weapon's different, boss zombies are, I mean, you can look at boss zombies a little bit differently, I guess, but yeah, it's very. We feel that map uniqueness slipping away, which I definitely very much felt, especially during Liberty Falls. I think that's one of the biggest downsides for me, is that when you take away everything that was from another map, Liberty Falls is just kind of a nothing map. It's kind of just the map geometry is the only thing unique about it.
Yeah, I just want to make two comments quickly before we move on from the rewards thing and the uniqueness, and then I want to go back to Liberty Falls. So I just want people in the comment section to know that I'm not shitting on Cold War or Black Ops 6. I had a little bit of a revelation that I want to talk about here in a moment, but before we get to that, I was listening to the podcast that Dalek was on with Kevin Drew. And Kevin Drew said something that I found quite contradicting in his worldview of creating zombies. Dalek was like, and I'll play the clip. If I forget, you guys can yell at me in the comments, but he said something along the lines of, are you going to go back and add Easter eggs to other maps?
Course of the seasons, older zombies maps, launch maps, new DLC maps, can we expect them to get updates, potentially new Easter eggs, new features, new perks, something to keep them fresh?
Yeah, so I would say, there's no current plans in the short term, but that's something I'm always interested in, and I'm actually curious to get your thoughts on, like, is that something you want? Like, preserving a game, like the map as it is, how do you feel about that? Because now it's kind of become a different experience. You can never go back to the other version.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a really great question. So, that wasn't what I had in my head, but I mean, now...
I mean, that's just like an example of something like that, right? Like Easter eggs and things like that. That sounds really cool. You know, definitely keeping an open mind on that.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Like maybe like as DLC Easter eggs. And Kevin was like,
right.
Well, what about preserving the map, like for what it is? And then the first thing that went off in my head, I was like, well, what about preserving the gameplay uniqueness of the map? Like every time you bring a new perk, every time you bring a new augment, every time you bring in a new specialist or field upgrade or mangler cannon, whatever they're going to bring down the line, and you bring that into Casimir, and you bring that into D Machine, you bring that into Mauer, you bring it into Terminus, Liberty Falls, DLC 1 or whatever. Doesn't that destroy the preservation of the map? So I wonder why he has, and I'm not throwing shade at Kevin Drew if he ever sees this clip. It's just, I wonder why he holds that contradicting value when it comes to the gameplay as opposed to the Easter egg. Because Blood of the Dead, a few months after launch, got the golden spork knife updated and fixed and added to it. So why is that not okay? But it's okay to do with gameplay, and I just don't understand that. And then
I think I remember the clip. It's been a while since I've seen it, but to me it sounded like he was asking, like he was genuinely like that was something he was fearful of, and he was asking Dalek like, "Hey, like, do you think that lessens the integrity of the map itself and that sort of thing? Like, if you add a map specific thing to it." I see what you're saying, but I think he was just thinking about it. I don't think he was like making it a claim. But I agree. Think you're absolutely right too, where I think that would have been great for Dalek to say. Obviously, in the spur of the moment, you're on Call of Duty's first podcast and you're their special guest. You might not be thinking about all these little details, but yeah, perks, the crafting table stuff, field upgrades, like those greatly change the gameplay more than a side quest might do. I mean, Kevin's got a point. How much do we preserve it? But my answer to that was, during its live service, I think we're all fine with maps changing and all that stuff, because in Cold War, they did the super Easter egg and that changed everything, like you said. So I think we're open to it just, throughout the year and throughout the live service that it's for. But as long as you're not like, I don't know, completely altering the foundation of it, I think it should be fine. Because like you said, we are used to perks changing stuff and everything. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, the preservation question, even though he is posing it, and it might not be his own presupposition, it's just still interesting. It's like, why haven't you asked your team that when it comes to gameplay? Because gameplay impacts everything much more than than a quest. The other thing I found interesting in that podcast, and you kind of mentioned it with the map, with directing markers, telling people where to go and highlighting everything in yellow, was, and I've been saying this for a while, and I haven't really had proof, but I feel a little bit vindicated now, is I still thought that despite the fact they made Easter egg quests so easy, that people still were not doing them, and they're not. They're still not.
I know.
And I was
so happy.
I know.
I had that conspiracy theory too.
Are you, I mean, I'm going off here. Are you able to share how small the percentage of people that do manage to finish the zombie story is? Because I would imagine it's an amazing thing for you guys to be able to say, we've put in this huge amount of work, now go experience it. It must be really fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what we're hoping. It's hard to get, because it's so situational based on the map. But I think it was like 5% on Team Machine.
Wow. And that's a launch map as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I feel like we have a lot of similar opinions, but I still want to get to.
I played a game.
Go ahead.
I played a game of Forsaken at the end of like Vanguard's or Modern Warfare 2's life cycle, like right before Modern Warfare 3. I played a game of Forsaken, the last DLC map in a group of public matches. They weren't getting armor. They weren't changing out their weapons. They weren't upgrading them. I'm like, that is what they're developing for. That's the player who they've got to somehow get through the Easter egg. And so I was like, there's no matter how easy they make it. And I think they made that realization too. No matter how easy they make it, unless they hold everyone's hand through it, they're not going to see the numbers that they want to see.
Yeah.
And so I think they did crazy. I'm so surprised they went. This is something we've asked for, but like, kind of like a Santa's list. Like, oh, I hope this comes, but we probably know it's not going to be here. But the guided and then making the actual quest harder, depending on how hard it actually is. I know they say it's harder, but
I know.
You know, what does harder mean? And everybody wants a little bit of different difficulty depending on who you talk to and all that stuff. So, but I like that they are at least acknowledging, yes, we're going to try to make them harder, but also walk people through it. I think that's the ideal situation. Like, it's crazy that they did that. So I'm really happy that they came to that conclusion.
You're probably right. And I do very much wonder, what does difficult mean for them? Because they keep saying things like, oh, well, there's no rock step. And I'm like, first of all, I know the rock step was stupid or whatever and fine, but that
was the only map.
It's not hard. It's not a hard step.
No.
No. Like when I think about annoying steps, I think about perhaps the step on Blood of the Dead where not even the Morse code, but the step where you have to do the shield sucking thing. Like that's a really, really hard step.
Yes.
Especially on solo. And so I was thinking about more steps like that. And honestly, I kind of like when they throw in a weird step like that every now and then, because it really breaks up the gameplay. Maybe it doesn't have to be that difficult, but those are the things that I really, really enjoy. Or, you know, kind of deciphering some of the codes, like those logic puzzles were really fun. And I just can't see them like going back to BO4, which is, I guess, okay. I mean, if people don't like it, I loved it. It's my favorite game, but I could see some kind of
me too.
I know, because you're super based and BO4 pilled. So I could honestly see them doing like maybe the most complicated is like a Horizon Drac. That's kind of how I see it going.
Gorod Krovi maybe without like the Valve step. You know, I could see them like, hey, collect these items and do these like challenges, you know? Because now thinking about the quest, depending on what the directed or guided mode actually is, how are they going to walk people? Is it going to be a simpler version of it where they do some of the steps, or are they going to do all the steps? Because if they do all the steps, then now we have to start thinking about, okay, what's a step they can design around objective markers? Okay, cool. Where would they put it here? How would they walk someone through it here? You know? So I don't know if that would affect anything, but that's, you know, I'm in the same boat as you, where how would they walk someone through a Morse code step? Like what sort of indicator would they put on the screen? Solve the Morse code for this guided walkthrough, you know? Or would they just skip it entirely and have them like activate a button instead or something? I don't know.
I would be fine with them personally if they wanted to have the guided mode. If they put a prompt up that said like, hey, this is like a full Morse code step, but if you just go over here, interact with this light, and then go over here and, you know, input 114 or 114, 115. I don't know why I just did that. 115 or whatever. Like, you know, you can bypass this step I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I really don't know because
Right.
I just can't see them. They say like this is catering to the more hardcore fan who likes more difficult puzzles, but part of having a difficult puzzle is having a difficult solution to come up with, or at least a clever one. And and then I think about stuff like Elden Ring and all these other games that have come out over time that are, you know, classic games in the zeitgeist of the gaming universe that are super popular, top selling, game award winning. And then we go to Call of Duty and then it just kind of seems a little counterintuitive there. I get, I don't know. It's confusing to me.
Yeah. I think like the Dead of the Night step where you have to change the different rotations of the centerpiece and get the right light shining through, you know, like that's the kind of fun.
I love that
cool
step.
Let's play with this puzzle a little bit, you know. It's I mean, everybody loves the Simon Says step on everything, so that would be a fun one. Obviously people, it's controversial, but you know, you like Blood of the Dead, so it's in there too somewhat. Yeah, I think there's this weird, and Call of Duty's always done this, and this is something that I don't know, I might make a video about this soon, but Call of Duty what do you call it? Appeals to the lowest common denominator in terms of its campaign and multiplayer, and has for quite some time. You know, the multiplayer has always been the really easy to get into, but hard to master, quote unquote, hard to master, game to be. And arguably, you could say, I think we would agree on this, the reason Zombies has such a passionate fan base is because it didn't cater to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, it held that barrier to entry high. So that way, oh no, you have to get into this mode if you want to enjoy it. Like it made you earn through skill, through time, through knowledge, through YouTube videos. You have to do all of these things in order to get your first bits of enjoyment out of it, in order to really go, oh man, this is why it's fun. Oh my goodness, like, it took me years to master training. I'm still not that great of a trainer compared to other people, but like it takes a long time and there's no other game quite like it. So it's not like multiplayer where you can go play Halo and Battlefield and kind of understand what a first person shooter is and then come to Call of Duty and be like, okay, I'm good. There's no other zombie game like Zombies, and there's no other like wave survival like Zombies is. It's such a unique concept that it is really difficult for people to get into, but once they get into it, it's kind of not that bad. There's not like a high skill ceiling, but there is a high skill floor, which is a very interesting thing, at least in my opinion. That's my experience. Once you get it, you can do like 90% of things, even main quests. A lot of people say Black Ops 4 main quests are so difficult and convoluted and complex, and yes, they're the most complex or long, I guess you could say.
They're the longest. I'm with you there. I don't think they're that hard.
I had a blast doing 9 and Dead of the Night and Ancient Evil. Dude, it was so much fun. Like, oh, I loved all this stuff. I wanted more. And like, even go back to Black Ops 3, those quests were short. Those were like, oh man, that's all you got to do. That's it. And like D Machine, you just go back in time, or D Machine, Heisenberg, you just go back in time a couple times, fight this. All right, you're good to go. Zetsubo, obviously. Everyone was upset, took less than a day, but you just find 3 cogs, you go, you know? So we're definitely, because we've all crossed that barrier to entry, the Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4 fans and the hardcore players, you could say, who classifies hardcore, we don't know, but it's just a term that we use.
Sure.
Since we've earned that knowledge through time and whatever, seeing that barrier lower and lower and lower, like I said, it kind of cheapens it out. It kind of like, oh man, but like, you're losing what made it special. You don't have to fight for the satisfaction that we did. So the satisfaction's lower because it's easier. So that's the kind of battle that I think they're fighting right now. How low do they lessen that barrier to entry to keep the sanctity of the things that make zombies special? Because sometimes the things that make zombies special is the struggle, is the weird random rock step that gets thrown in there. Obviously, people don't like it, but like sometimes that's the fun of searching. Sometimes that's the fun of doing whatever. I remember Jason Blundell interview with Noah J during Zetsubo, I think. He was playing Horizon Draha, and he's like, yeah, we purposely made the keeper step do a one-hit kill just randomly, or, you know, you obviously had the tell with the electricity in the center, but he did that because he knew people were going to die, and he had to redo the map again. He had to get back to that place again to create that intrigue, and that might be weird or bad game design to people, but that's kind of an element that makes zombies so special because it is such a high level of of entry there. And I say zombies isn't made for everybody, but everybody can get into zombies.
Sure. I think that's well said. And I think that's something that Treyarch is kind of struggling with right now, or maybe it's Activision, I'm not sure. But they're trying so hard to make everybody love zombies, and it's like, not everybody's not going to love zombies. Like, think about your YouTube channel. If you made your zombies videos for Animal Crossing fans, nobody would watch them, and and zombies fans wouldn't watch them either, because they'd be like, why are you making Animal Crossing zombies videos or whatever the hell you're trying to do? It doesn't make any sense. So when I see Treyarch trying to lower the barrier of entry, or I'm not gonna necessarily say that phrase. Because I want people to play zombies. I do.
Yeah.
But
we all do.
I want people who want to play zombies. I want them to actually want to play zombies. I don't want people who have no interest in zombies to play zombies, because why would you want to play it if you don't like it? It's okay.
Yep.
You don't have to like it.
Yep.
Nobody's going to be mad at you. You go like your game. If you like God of War or Elden Ring, or you like Forza, whatever, go play that. That's totally cool. I don't like those. Well, I like God of War and Elden Ring, but I don't like Forza.
It's pretty good.
So it's like, you guys go play those games. That's totally chill. I don't want to mess up your games. And I just kind of want some preservation. But I will say, and I kind of touched on this a moment ago, I had a little bit of a revelation, no pun intended, to this new era of zombies. I'm working on my Ancient Evil review, and it's been a couple weeks since I've touched it, and I was like going back and playing the map to kind of just get in the mindset, and something just kind of came over me, and it's just a feeling, it's just intuition, but I was like, you know what, I think I'm finally okay sending this era off. Like I feel like I'm finally okay putting a cap on this like Blundell era from, and Zelensky era from like World at War to BO4. I was like, man, this was like a really special time. And I really am okay with how the mode is changing, but at the same time, it just still, even if they made it Warzone Zombies 2.0, I don't really care about that. It's just some of that preservation of making zombies unique is what's killing me.
Yes.
Even if they made it easier, even if they made all the gameplay mechanics the same across 30 maps in the DLC season, I don't care. It's the fact that it just doesn't have a unique element, its own identity that separates it from campaign, that separates it from Warzone, that separates it from MP. And so that's kind of what I'm worried about, is the homogenization of the mode and catering to people who don't even give a shit about if it lives or dies.
Right. I think that's a very interesting perspective too, because I kind of feel that way as well. Whenever I get a comment like, "Oh man, you shouldn't have to watch a YouTube video to do this thing."
Why?
Like, well, you're commenting on a YouTube video, so you're clearly okay with like watching YouTube about a game that you like, and that barrier to entry that we say almost acts like a filter for those type of people. Like, hey, if you want to do this, here's the threshold you got to cross. Here's the filter you got to go through. Okay. Now that you've done that, cool. Now you can enjoy it. Now you can have that fun and enjoy the special uniqueness that makes zombies. But my question for you would be then, what sort of elements, and I think for everybody, what sort of elements, specifics, does zombies need to have to make it different from the nightmare you have of like a Warzone type of zombies? Because in my opinion, you can't get more Warzone zombies than Modern Warfare 3 zombies. I think that's like the closest you can come to Warzone zombies. But what sort of things could make it different and separate enough to go, okay, this is zombies. This is that kind of special mode that we know and love. And that's an open question. I have my thoughts, but what do you think?
Yeah, I have kind of two stances on this. The first stance is, that's the developer's job to do. So like, thank God I don't have it.
And sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. Absolutely.
But I would say mostly it's like an atmospheric type of thing. And like, even when you go back to the classic maps, like a Doris or a 5, or even maps that didn't have any sort of main quest, it was just Shinonuma, just killing zombies. Like, that's a daytime map too, right? There's a level of atmosphere that makes you feel like you're stuck in this. I always kind of, once Easter eggs kind of came into the picture, I kind of looked at zombies maps as like an escape room, and you're trying to figure out how to like get out of this pressure cooker of a horde mode. And that to me has just completely been eliminated with Cold War moving forward. There has been in some instances of it, you can feel it a little bit. But so anyway, the atmospheric pressure that is created through narrative storytelling, weird stuff kind of painted in the corner, whether it's like chalk on the wall or blood or hand on a power switch. Like, I think those things are super, super crucial. And then that added stress of the gameplay being difficult didn't, it added to that. But if that's going to be eliminated, then I would rather have it be pushed towards Easter eggs, narrative Easter eggs and stuff like that. So those are the two,
almost like an immersion thing.
Yeah,
like
it's an immersion thing.
Immersed in the world itself.
Yeah.
And believability of like, oh, this is actually happening. This is, what's going on.
100%. When I'm inside of Mauerter Toten, I think it's a decent looking map. Or let's use it doesn't matter, any of the Cold War maps. I think they're okay looking.
Really.
But when I'm inside of Dead of the Night or Ancient Evil, like, I want to be there. I want to be in Delphi. I want to be in that mansion. I want to be in the Alcatraz prison inside of Blood of the Dead. I don't really want to be in Firebase C. I don't really want to be in D Machine. They're okay places, and I like the killing zombies part. I like the gameplay.
Graphically, they're fine.
Yeah, but I don't want to be there.
This is something I'm thinking about too, of like Liberty Falls, because it's like, I almost think, and sort of on the same mindset, Liberty Falls is a place that we all kind of know.
Yeah.
Like, it's not fantastical. It's not, we can all picture walking down the street and going like, yep, that's a town. That's a city somewhere, But like you said, Dead of the Night, Ancient Evil. Oh, I've never been there. I can't fathom. Like, it's almost, when we say immersion, we don't want more realistic. We almost want the opposite.
Yeah.
We almost want a more fantastical or a more sci-fi or whatever the theme's going to be. You almost want more cartoony. And I think zombie maps have always had that little hint of tongue-in-cheek cartooniness, with Richtofen and all the original characters being so over the top. Like, you're automatically bought into the world so much. But with Liberty Falls, with it being, I think, a term that multiplayer or warzonification, whatever, it's almost because the Warzone and multiplayer side of things are trying to be realistic. At least they have been with the Modern Warfare series and all that stuff with Warzone. They're doing that mil sim kind of thing, and that's kind of not what zombies is or was or ever has been. It's always been a little cartoony. It's always been a little tongue in cheek. You've always had the little it's atmospheric in the sense that it's not real, but it's hyper real. It's cartoony. It's, you're on the Titanic, but the atmosphere is so crazy and different. Well, crazy, it's moody. But Blood of the Dead and Mob of the Dead, you're in Alcatraz, yes, but it's so over the top evil and lightning storms and all that stuff. Where as Liberty Falls, it's just like, oh, it's a town in the middle of the day. We all know it. And like you said, it doesn't make you compelled to be there. It's not a compelling setting that you want to be in. So I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, there's also, you said it, funnily, you said it in two separate statements. You said it's a little bit sci-fi or a little bit fantastical. Zombies merges those together perfectly. Like, oh,
beautifully.
Like, think about Dead of the Night, or think about Forsaken. Even Forsaken has like the crystal axe, but it has all these sciencey things around it. I love that.
Yep.
Dead of the Night has Alistair's Annihilator, but it has werewolves and druids and like all this cool shit from that element. So
yeah, they
really did a good job of that up through Black Ops 4. And I was really bummed when they kind of took it away. And like, I know you could say the Dark Ether, and I don't necessarily hate the Dark Ether. I'm hoping for the Dark Ether to be so much more other than just like a purple place to go with. Like,
I was really excited when the Dark Ether in Vanguard wasn't that. I was like, oh, there's a different climate. There's a different type of Dark Ether. Let's do more of that. I think the reason people like the Dark Ether so much, and the reason that I always say that I like the Dark Ether so much, is because it is the most fantastical part of the games that we've gotten in the past 4 years. It is kind of like the old school. Yeah, this is way wacky and out of there, but I guess we should probably be more specific of, we like the atmosphere that it creates, not necessarily we like the purple and we like the crystals and we like all the stuff. We like that it is crazy and out there, not necessarily the specifics itself. So
yeah,
very great point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I know that the gameplay is going to change, and I'm fine with the gameplay changing. It's just
Cold War was fun. I've said it before. I was having a blast during Cold War. Like, it's after Cold War's life cycle where I realized, wow, I'd rather go back to Black Ops 4. I'd rather go back to Black Ops 3. Like, Cold War was fun when it was live and it was new and it was, oh, look at this stuff. Look at this fun thing, that this Casimir that just got added. But like now I'd like, let's go get Pegasus. Let's go play some Ancient Evil. You know, that's something you can only get on that map.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So I have kind of like I have two questions, but I only want to ask one because it's going to kind of determine the course of the podcast. So I either want to go down what you think DLC 1 could potentially be, or like kind of what you hope for the DLC season. But we did kind of touch a lot on that, but like with just our expectations in other ways. Or I kind of wanted to ask about Modern Warfare Zombies. So what would you rather talk about?
Ooh. I don't have much to say about DLC 1.
Okay.
We could do a real quick DLC 1 and then go to Modern Warfare Zombies. I think that'd be good.
Go right ahead. What are your expectations for DLC 1 in the season ahead? Like, what would you kind of like to see from Treyarch?
So like we touched on, obviously DLC 1, we need that atmosphere. We need the set crew. We need all the stuff. And I was thinking about it storyline wise. No one's been talking about the story as much as I think the story deserves to be talked about, because I think with all the things going on with Liberty Falls, I think there's a lot to talk about. It's a little bit deeper with the intel and it's not as easy or accessible, but anyway, I digress. The fact that Liberty Falls, and I was thinking about this too, the fact that it's set at the time it is, I think is very important because it's happening at the same exact time as Terminus. And they've said that so specifically so many times that I'm like, okay, something crazy should happen in one map or the other to affect it, because otherwise they would make Terminus, you know, later in the day and then Liberty Falls later in the day, so it'd have better atmosphere. But anyway, outside of that, DLC 1 is going to continue on that craziness or whatever, either with Richtofen being stuck in the Dark Ether, taking over the Dark Ether, or, you know, saving his son, whatever. But we need that unique boss zombie. We need a unique wonder weapon. I like that Cold War had unique bosses and unique wonder weapons, more or less with every single map they added stuff into it. I don't want to see more manglers. I don't want to see, I mean, we're going to see more manglers.
I'm so kind of, sick of the damn manglers. Holy crap.
I'm so sick of it. Like, and they're great bosses. They're awesome bosses. Like, they're well designed. All the bosses in Cold War are well designed in Modern Warfare 3. Like, I love how they interact with the gameplay, but give us new. You know, it's been 4 years. Give us something new, you know? So we need just new stuff and new atmospheres. And in terms of like where it could be set or what we could be doing, I have absolutely no idea. That's where I'm terrible at speculating. I'm terrible at like projecting where we could go or what might happen. I don't think we're gonna find Myra's brother in a good situation. I don't think we're gonna save him and he's gonna tag along with the team. I think something's gonna happen.
He's gonna be the boss in Terminus. 100%. 100%.
She's gonna be on a vengeance thing against Richtofen. We're gonna go after him. That's totally where it's going. But I'm interested to see where Richtofen goes, because they have been trying to spin him as this, like, not hero, but like a sympathetic villain sort of
which
thing.
Is good.
So I'm really interested to see that. I love that. That's kind of blending Ultimus and Primus together. Like, I really like that. Primus, definitely more of the hero with like a sinister intent or selfish intent. But Ultimus was like the more so villain. But then again, you could argue he had the Shadow Man in him the whole time. But, you know, anyway, I do also, the Shadow person from Modern Warfare 3's end cutscene is interesting. You know, I feel like they might be, and also, I don't know what you think about this, but they've been using 115 a lot in their marketing. And a lot of this 115 stuff, they had the original round changing music on Liberty Falls, the original teaser. The ray gun has 115 bullets in it now.
Okay.
And like,
I didn't realize
the shadow person appearing in the mirror at the end of Modern Warfare Zombies, I'm not wondering if we're back in a bigger cycle, because if you look at the first or second thing on the original Zombies timeline is the Apothicans broke out of the Dark Ether by sending 115 rocks to our universe. And that's kind of what we're seeing with Modern Warfare 3, where we had 115 rocks in the Season 2 Dark Ether, and now they were in the overworld in Urzikstan. So is that like symbolic that they're trying to break out of the Dark Ether again? I don't know. Crazy conspiracy theory, but
well, you would know more than I would. I stopped playing at season 2 of that game. I couldn't do it, bro. I couldn't do it.
So did a lot of people. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Warfare 3 now. What's your prompt here?
Okay, you really want to know what my prompt is?
I do.
How the hell did you play this for a whole fucking year, dude? How did you do it? Because I know you don't love it, but I know you don't hate it either. So
right, absolutely. The full-time job helped, I couldn't like dive into it fully, so I could spread it across my content across all the seasons and everything. But when DMZ came out back in the day in Modern Warfare 2, I loved the open world setting. I loved how it was just, you could do what you want, exfil with this. It really clicked with me, DMZ. And then I was that guy who hated PvP in DMZ, so I was annoyed with it and I left it, whatever. But I came back during the Halloween event, and the Halloween event was so cool in DMZ.
It was pretty good.
You had the UFO. It was awesome. The boss fight in the hell area I forget the Diablo characters and the hell train and everything. Yeah, exactly. The butcher and all that. Like, it was so cool. And I was like, dude, this could be zombies. Like, they could have this map at night with all these different bosses that respawned, and it was awesome. And so Modern Warfare 3 came out, and from what I remember, apart from you had some troubles at launch. I remember watching you. I forget what you're doing. You're struggling with like an ether nest or something. You kept dying over and over in a live stream, and I was like, oh no. And there's a couple people who had bad experiences, but I think the majority were kind of pleasantly surprised. Like, everyone, it wasn't like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. It was like, oh, this isn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. This actually has this. It wasn't a Vanguard. It was hey, this has actually some merit to it. So everyone kind of rode that for a little bit. DLC 1, Season 1 went pretty well with the new Dark Ether. It was fun. You could get new schematics and all that stuff. But then Season 2 came around, Season 3, and it was just kind of a new Dark Ether and a new Dark Ether. And it was just kind of like, here's all of this potential of this mode, and you're not capitalizing on it at all whatsoever. So I think that's kind of how a majority, I want to say, people think. But in terms of me, myself and I just really like the formula. I really like the extraction. I think the zombies elements, the ether tools and the pack-a-punch crystals and the perks and extracting with all that and going back in with a harder or a bigger and bigger, more powerful setup is really engaging. Because after the first game, I think I got like a schematic and some perks, and I was like, oh, I could craft this, get Pack-a-Punch 1, go in with these perks, and automatically, boom, go into tier 2. And so that was that progression of the first couple months with the story or the story quests and the schematics and all that grinding was really, really fun. And it was around Season 3, when I had gotten all of that and the story missions were done and all of that was done. That was when I really hit the wall, around Season 2 of like, all right, what else do we got here? Like, what else? And then Season 3 comes out, and it's just another Dark Ether with some schematics that genuinely don't really have a purpose. I mean, Deadwire Detonators is good in certain situations, but after that, it was kind of like dang, this feels like more and more of a wasted opportunity. But yeah, in terms of me, like, I feel like I play a surprisingly little amount of zombies, so I definitely couldn't satisfy myself with like, a couple days or weeks worth of playing to get to the done point. But I don't know, as a content creator, it was kind of my first year, like really, really dedicating myself to the whole year. And I don't know, the base gameplay was fun, even if it got a little repetitive. So that's how the heck I could play for an entire year. Well, 10 months, whatever we're at right now.
I actually don't disagree with whatever you're saying. I made a review for the mode that I stupidly put out on Thanksgiving. But I really was surprised about it as well. I actually liked it more than a lot of people at launch. And I was like, if Treyarch...
I didn't think it'd work very well.
You didn't think it would work very well?
I did, but I was like, if it's just DMZ with zombies, I think I would like Outbreak more. But then I didn't. I was like, oh, wow, they did this. So yeah, it really surprised me too. So
it definitely works better than Outbreak. And I think Cold War's systems work better inside of MWZ than in round-based zombies.
Absolutely. Yes.
And the thing that's really problematic for me about MWZ was it wasn't necessarily the timer, but I think it needed to be pushed a little longer. You need a timer in that mode. You actually do need one. Yeah. But you need it to not be 45 minutes or whatever it is. It needs to be about I think an hour and a half just to have fun and mess around a little bit. But you can go into the Dark Ether, which does extend it. So I guess that does kind of solve for that a little bit. But I thought that the grind was too punishing. I thought that it was designed for retention. Like I made another video about this as well in season 1. I think it was, in my mind, it was a retention mode, they weren't trying to maximize the fun. So if you die or the game crashes or you use your schematics, like you have to go through this whole process all over again of playing like 3 games just to be able to skip tier 1 and tier 2 to go to tier 3 to potentially get an Elder Sigil so you can go into the Dark Ether. So you have to play like 5 games if you're starting from scratch. Like I know there's ways to exploit systems and stuff, but if a new player is just playing for the first time and they're trying to figure out this stuff on their own, maybe they watch a couple videos, it'll probably take them about 3 to 5 games to get into a Dark Ether rift. And that's like 5 hours. And so to me, that is a retention thing, not actually trying to make things fun. So I think the fact that it was so fun worked in their favor to keep people into this retention like hamster wheel. And I think if they cut the retention elements down by like 30%, so it would take like 2 to 3 maps to get into, or matches to get into a Dark Ether rift, or so that it wasn't so punishing if you like lost or if you whatever, or if they had a longer time limit so I could do more tasks to get more shit, so that when I leave, I actually leave with a good chunk of items and maybe have an inventory of 20 or 30. Like that's where I think they went wrong. And then also not keeping up with the mode, because if they had different world bosses and different special Dark Ether spaces, I think it would have been one of the best third modes of all time, to be quite honest.
I think it still can be. I think with like a good 3-4 year development cycle, it could rival round based in terms of popularity.
I agree.
I mean, I don't want to say like quality per se, but just like validation, I guess. You know, it could stand on its own 2 feet without round based. Outbreak, I felt like was standing on round based a little bit too much, where it's like every time I thought, how do you make Outbreak better? I just tried to make it more round based. I tried to be like, well, maybe the rounds progress every time you kill amount of zombies. Maybe the map needs to be smaller. Maybe, you know, you don't progress the rounds just by the objective. And I'm like, well, that's just turning it into a round based map. But this being so far different than a round based map, like it builds its own merits on its own mechanics, which I think is really good. But I think you're absolutely right in the sense that like a lot of times you'd go to, like, if I were to do a Dark Ether run right now, get all my stuff, cool. I might get some schematics, get some epic legendary stuff, but more often than not, I'm not exfilling with the same amount of quality items as I'm infilling with.
Yeah,
like, I have to wait for the timer to come down.
Agreed.
And like, I feel like that happens at the end game.
It does.
A question for you is, you want to get to that end game sooner? You want to get to that Dark Ether sooner? You say that's for retention, and I definitely think part of it is in there, but I don't think it's necessarily like evil or whatever. But what would you say of like, I haven't played many open world games, unfortunately, but like, you can't just pick up like Mario Odyssey and like, or Legend of Zelda, or Zelda, I forget what it is, the newest one that came out, and just go to the boss right away.
Or something, or
exactly, you can't go to Breath of the Wild and just go to the mountain and fight Ganondorf right away. You have to do other things to get yourself powerful first. So it's almost mixing in that elements of a single player progression of like, nope, you've got to earn all of these things before you have the strong stuff to go in there, sort of deal. So I'd be curious of your thoughts on that, and like, obviously, I know Oversized Gilly, another Modern Warfare Zombies content creator, like he goes in with fresh nothing and like goes to the Dark Ether on one game and all that craziness stuff, and he does like 0 kill Dark Ethers. He's nuts. But
yeah, I've seen people who do that.
normal players,
Well,
how much of that do you think is padding versus just like linear progression? Because much like in zombies, you have to do rounds 1 through 50 before you get to a round 50 sort of thing. You have to do the steps to the main quest before you get to the main quest. So I guess I'm trying to figure out for myself where I think about that. So what do you think? Like what's retention versus just progression?
Yeah, I think so. Funnily enough, Breath of the Wild was a bad choice for you to make, because you can actually fight the final boss. You can fight the final boss right at the beginning. Actually,
that's cool.
Yeah, which is, I think that is cool. But anyway,
yeah,
I think what you're saying is absolutely correct. I do think that that Modern Warfare Zombies has great progression. I just think they pad it out too much. So that's why I would just like it toned down like 25-30%. So for example, when I go, even if I go into tier 3, my first game with just my fists and some pack-a-punch, maybe pack-a-punch one weapon, or dark ether, whatever, just something like low
strat decoy throwing knife, and you just go do contracts, whatever.
And I do a bunch of contracts that I'm competing for, so I might not even get them. That's a padding element.
It's terrible.
And then the other element is, why am I getting rare items in tier 3? Why am I getting blue wrenches in tier 3? Why am I getting these lower quality rewards?
2-plate vest.
To push that I'm supposed to be able to take to push me further into the mode. So it's like, okay, I just went in with, you even talked about going in with high tier equipment and then coming out with low tier equipment. I feel like that's a very common thing. So that ends up pushing this this retention hack. I don't think retention's bad. I want to play the game.
Right.
I think they're like milking us a little bit too much. That's how I feel about it. So I think the progression's fine. It's just overtuned.
Right. I think, there's a bunch of fluff, and that's definitely something that DMZ fixed, because especially with the junk items, like the jumper cables and the wrench and the like random picture of a dog or whatever. In DMZ, they came out with a special like bargaining thing. I think that's what it was called. And you would pick up those random items and you would get like a special plate vest out of it. And like it made those random items worth it. And if we had some sort of way to collect these blue wrench, if you got a blue wrench, like 2 blue wrenches, you went to the special crafting table, boom, now you have a purple wrench.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. In season 1 and 2, unfortunately, the ones that you played the most, the blue tools were the most common in tier 3, which is ridiculous. But luckily in season 2 or season 2 Reloaded, they made the purple wrenches the most common. And so that was a huge step in my opinion. And then I think it's true. I haven't experienced it all too much, but definitely the best way to get legendary tools is going into the dark ether. So in my opinion, tier 1 giving green, tier 2 giving blue, tier 3 giving purple, and then dark ether giving legendary is kind of exactly where it should be. But you're still right, where you're still getting all of these random junk stuff, and it's kind of just like, not taking that. Okay, this is the thing I'm actually for. It's almost like, you're completing these contracts to do supply drops, where you're just getting a random chance to roll the dice. And I know you've made the RNG video and everything. It feels like that, but it feels RNG in the moment. But I don't know if you've seen, I've done 100 contracts in each tier, and put them on a spreadsheet and did the statistical analysis of everything. And everything is about where it should be, but there's just not a lot of good rewards to reward people with in tier 3. If you do legendary tools, it's almost too powerful, but I would say get us more crystals, get us more other things. But then you've got a lot of perks, and like it kind of comes down to the Cold War thing, where it's like, once you have everything, what's a good reward to reward you with,
Agreed. Go ahead. No, finish it.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, on top of like, you mentioned the timer being really short. I experienced that through my like early progression, mid-game progression. But once I got all the schematics, and once I was like, I could just do tier 3 and dark ether runs over and over again, I felt like the timer was not even a problem. It was almost too long. I was like, what do I do with all this time? So it's a weird balance. It's a weird progression, because, and I've said this too, once you're at the end of the progression, there's no way to go back. there's no, like, I can't reset, I can't prestige, I can't lose all my schematics. Like, I can't go back and feel what it's like to not have these schematics unless I buy a new account or buy the game again on Steam or something. But in Zombies, every single game is a progression. Every single game you're starting at 0 and then coming from nothing. So it's weird. It's such a weird mode.
Well, you actually kind of glossed over something that I find interesting. So you were talking about the rewards, like getting wrenches in the Dark Ether that are legendary. It's like, well, I needed that before I got in there.
Right.
So
it's weird.
That's where it gets tricky is the reward for getting into the highest level place where you need the highest level rewards to survive are the rewards you need to survive. So I find that a little bit like contradicting in terms of reward. It's similar to what
I will say.
Go ahead.
The first and second Dark Ether, I feel like I've made videos
like
on
tier
you could do it with
Dark
the blue
Ether,
and purple
like yeah, for sure you can.
Like season 2, season 1, the weapon damage with an epic tool is very, very worth it. But it's still a problem, you know, even if it's not an actual problem. Like you can go in, pack a punch matters more than legendary rarity does. So you can go in there with a purple tool and get the job done and everything. But still, from a player experience perspective, you're like, exactly, like, well, I needed this to get in here, or I wanted to have this to get in here because it's like the big boss. It's the big final tier. So like, why would I not want one of these? But this is the place where I find them. But then if you reward it in tier 3, and this is a question for you, let's say we bumped it back a little bit, you get, you know, legendary tools in tier 3 to go into the Dark Ether. What then do you reward in the Dark Ether to make it like worth it?
Yeah, there has to be, I would say, like wonder weapons or maybe some sort of like bonus thing that gives you more inventory or something that,
or maybe it's good enough because that's the only place you can have the schematics and all of those acquisitions too. Sorry, not to interrupt.
No, it's all those like high end items. You know, because I remember a couple times I went into like the lower tier Dark Ether and I was still getting blue wrenches in there too, and I was like, why am I getting these low tier items that I'm supposed to take out with me to go into the next level of Dark Ether? So that's where it was getting a little bit tricky. But at the same time, when you get to the end of the progression, you know, let's say you go to the, what is it, the Elder? Is the Elder the highest one, the red one? The Elder Sigil?
There's the regular sigil and then the Elder Sigil.
Okay, so the Elder Sigil, like you get into there and you do all the stuff in there. Well, you're just kind of done. So like the rewards don't even matter. So they're similar to how side Easter eggs, we're talking about that in round based, how there needs to be a ceiling, and then you need to be able to push past that ceiling with the rewards. So you're like breaking the game, like you get all the augments or you get a mystic level weapon or whatever. They needed to have something in there inside of the Dark Ether, whether it's a boss fight, whether it's some other secret level or whatever. Like they had to push past, they have to push past that, but you're always going to arrive at a similar issue where it's like the reward for hitting the end of the progression is to just do it again.
At the end of the progression.
And just do it again. So it's a tough problem to solve. And I'm not like mad about it. I just thought it was kind of
a barrier.
Yeah, it's kind of a barrier. It's kind of a weird way they structure it. And then just to comment on the time thing where you're saying like you felt like you have more than enough time. I agree that there's a lot of extra time if you go in overpowered, but at the same time, I just wanted to be able to like fuck around, you know, and just do a bunch of stuff, even if it was in tier 2, get headshots, like I really liked the oh my gosh, the escort mission where you're escorting the like tank, the Dark Ether tank or whatever. Yeah. I actually think that's one of the better missions, but I just wanted to do that. I think
it's fun.
I just wanted to do that. Yeah. Like I just want to do that 30 million times. Like I don't even care. So, you know, as long as the missions keep respawning. So that's kind of where I felt like it was short, because a regular zombies game takes me about an hour and a half to do if I just messing around. So I was kind of hoping for that same experience, which I didn't always want to go to the Dark Ether because maybe I didn't have stuff, or maybe I just went down and I just kind of wanted to grind in tier 2. So that's kind of why I was hoping for the longer extension of time. But again, there was just weird little balance issues. But at the end of the day, I think it's a much better mode than people give it credit for. I just was really disappointed when Treyarch was like, no new monsters, no new boss fights, or not boss fights, but no new whatever. Perks. Yeah. And like we're we're giving this to Sledgehammer and Infinity Ward. See you later.
And technically speaking, they didn't say that they were done with it. They just said it was the finale. So who knows? Sledgehammer over the next year could do, here's a field upgrade. Here's a, new story mission. I don't know. Probably not. But or they could make balancing changes or something. But what was I going to say? Yes. I think with the like golden armor, ether blade, like those high tier loot, one of the solutions that I had in my head in terms of replayability and making it more like you said, exfilling with better stuff than you came in with, is to guarantee those things a little bit more in the dark ether and yes, maybe tier 3. But then get rid of the stash limit. Just let us carry as many of anything as we want, because there are there are people who will grind to get 1,000 gobblegums. There are people who grind to get 1,000 of this, 1,000 of that. People, I would grind all just to get 100 of every single item in the game. Like that's something that you could do. But I think you run into the thing of like, well, then you're still spending something to go in there, so it has to be worth it to spend it to get it out. And I just that one specific pinch point is so bizarre. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is why I don't envy the devs. Like, there's this quote by do you know who Bill Hader is? He wrote for okay. So for those who don't know, he's like an actor. He wrote for South Park. He's been on SNL. He's done a lot of stuff in Hollywood. I think he's in the show Barry on Showtime. Yeah. So anyway, he has a quote that he says, I'm going to paraphrase it, but he talks about when people are giving him feedback for his shows or writing or whatever. He says, I listen to fans or what people are telling me when they recognize there's a problem, like, oh, the relationship with this father and his daughter is off, or like this is not working out or whatever. He will listen to them to identify the problem, but he'll never listen to them for the solution. So So that's why I try to like highlight these issues and present them to like in YouTube videos or to the devs, and I hope that they're listening. But it's really up to them as the professionals who are creating this mode to think, okay, fans are having a problem with atmosphere. How can we iron this out and create a solution for them? Because we're missing the mark, or like they're not happy with it, or is it just like them yelling in the sky for the olden days? And so
exactly.
So I think they need to find that balance a little bit better, and it feels like they're doing that with Black Ops 6, but in Cold War, it felt like there was a little bit of a balance between of appealing to a little bit of the hardcore and a little bit to the casual, where here it feels like here's Terminus, that's only for the hardcore player, and then here's Liberty Falls, it's only for the casual, and it feels so split. And I'm worried that Black Ops 6 is going to split people even more, and we're going to have this whole like, oh, BO3 is better and Cold War is better, like that whole like faction war that's happening in our community right now. I'm worried it's going to get worse if these maps are as too distinct from one another.
Polarizing.
Yeah, it's polarizing. Yeah.
See, I feel like I don't have a problem with maps being distinct, because I think that's what makes round-based zombies so special. I think, Jason Blundell back in the day said he hopes he never has a formula for a good zombies map, because each zombie map deserves to be its own individual identity and everything. But it doesn't feel like Liberty Falls is technically like falling under that. I don't think that's kind of what he had in mind in terms of its own identity, because I agree with what people say. Like, people will defend Liberty Falls a little bit and go, well, it's supposed to be casual, it's supposed to be meant for this audience. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean that audience only likes this type of atmosphere. It doesn't mean they can't like Terminus. Something that, to me, when I was getting into zombies, the thing that made me want to get into zombies was the craziness of it. I wanted to play on the moon. I wanted to play in, Shadows of Evil. I wanted to play in Buried, in this underground town. That was the draw of it. That was what made it really fun. I didn't want a multiplayer map or something that looked like it to be zombies. Like, that wasn't appealing. So I don't really get that argument of like, oh, well, they're trying to appeal to this audience. Well, that audience can like this really wacky atmosphere. They can really like the zombified stuff because it is the draw of the mode. So I don't know if I'm super worried about it polarizing it, other than what it already has done. The armor systems and the point system and the HUD and all this stuff. I'm so done talking about the HUD.
I know. I mean, I am kind of worried about the polarization. I really am, because there's that video going around of that dude who had the God mask and the shield, and it's like a 75 hit down, and people are like, "Oh, that means Black Ops 6 is easier, or I mean, excuse me, harder, because this is a 9,000 hit down." It's like, oh my gosh, dude, nobody knows how to. Yeah, it's not the same at all. But so wrapping up here, I'm sorry we went a little bit over, but I thought the conversation was pretty good, so I wanted to kind of.
We could go on.
I know we could. I definitely want to have you back. I hope you're open to that.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to finish off with a little bit of a lightning round. So these are just like gut questions, no thinking, unless you need clarification. But like just say what's first on your heart. Okay.
Oh boy. All right.
We have. Here we go. I think I have like 9 of them. All right. So, all right. First question is perk limit or no perk limit?
Perk limit.
Shield or armor?
Shield.
Double tap or rarity system?
Rarity system.
That I was not okay. Whoa.
Double tap is so redundant. I don't understand it. Well, honestly, with the pack-a-punch system and Deadshot and the rarity system, it's such overkill. Like I feel like
I actually agree.
Maybe rapid fire I could see, but put that in the gunsmith. Make it in the gunsmith.
I think that's coming actually.
Anyway. That's going to be the hottest take of the whole thing here.
I was surprised because you were going classic in that. I was just surprised. I don't mind rarity system. I don't think it's an issue. Yeah. But okay, no. Favorite consumable system.
Ooh, there's so much that goes into that. I really like how you earn Ethereum crystals. I know it's not a consumable, but I like how you earn it. If it not that, then I like Nebulium Plasma in terms of earning it. And then I like either Black Ops 4 Infinite Warfare system in terms of you have multiple things like card that you can use. I forget what they're
Fate and Fortune cards.
What they call them. Fate and Fortune cards there. I like having multiple of them. Honestly, legitimately, kind of sounds like Black Ops 6 might be my favorite. Like the Gobblegum system in Black Ops 6 might be. You could choose multiple of them. You can hold multiple of them, and then you earn them through progressing rounds. It sounds like that might be my favorite one. But if not, a mix between Infinite Warfare and Black Ops 4. Mainly Infinite Warfare, but I just like Black Ops 4's Nebulium Plasma and the actual specifics of what the consumables are.
Okay, fair enough. So what other mode are you going to play first aside from zombies in BO6?
Ooh, I wish they did campaign early. I feel like that always was so popular, and it just kind of let everybody, okay, experience the story, and then boom, get into the hardcoreness of everything. I'll probably play multiplayer, if not campaign. One of those two. Probably multiplayer with my friend, and then campaign like a week after the game's out, and I can sit down and actually have time to do it.
Okay. All right. Eliminate one. Zelensky, Blundell, or Kevin Drew?
Oh, dang. I haven't seen enough of Kevin Drew, honestly. But he did Zetsubo, he did Mob.
I think he did Blood too. He worked on it.
I'm gonna have to go Zelensky. I feel like I started in Black Ops 3. So the simple maps, I love Moon, but like Kino 5, they're pretty simple, they're pretty basic. I could not play them and be okay. I need my Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4.
Okay. We're going to do another elimination. Are you ready?
Oh boy. Let's go.
Infinite Warfare Zombies, Modern Warfare Zombies, or Black Ops 4?
Oh man, people aren't going to like this. This is Donuts Exposed. I think Modern Warfare Zombies got to go.
See, I was wondering if you were going to pick that because obviously I think it's one of the weaker modes, but at the same time, you've saw a lot of growth with your channel, so I'm sure there's some positive ties to that as well. So I was curious. That was a little bit of a gotcha. Sorry for putting you on the spot there.
No, you're good. I think on a different day, I might pick Infinite Warfare Zombies because 5 maps, 4 of them that I really like, 3.5 that I really like. Shallon's okay. I like Attack of the Radioactive thing. Beast from Beyond, I've tried so hard. with Beast from Beyond. I can't do it.
It is a kind of a shit map, but the boss fight's great.
Exactly. I love the atmosphere of Infinite Warfare Zombies, and I feel like just round-based is just so much more replayable than Modern Warfare Zombies is. But if you're gonna ask me, I probably have more game time in Modern Warfare Zombies, to be fair. So that's probably maybe a little bit hypocritical for me to say.
Fair enough. All right, last question.
Yeah.
Should open world zombies come back?
Eventually. Not the same year, off year, not by Treyarch.
A little follow-up. It's not lightning or anything, but that was the last one. Would you rather have it be like MWZ, or would you rather have it be like Outbreak? Or
I think Modern Warfare Zombies with a zombie-specific map where we have the skyscraper is Die Rise, and then there's a bus going around like Transit, and then there's a movie theater like Kino, and like that, like zombified thing, like they do the Warzone and the multiplayer maps in the Warzone map, a huge open world zombie map with the zombie maps in it, in the dark ether or whatever, with a good atmosphere and all that stuff. Zombified contracts, no mercenaries, different maps. If we got more maps, if we got Alcatraz as a map, if all those were zombified and like it was more fleshed out, I feel like that could be so special. Absolutely. But I feel like we've seen kind of, in my opinion, I think we've seen the limit to what Outbreak can be. I don't know how you make Outbreak any better than what it currently is. They have all the maps, all the kill streaks, all the bosses, maybe put in some wonder weapons, but I feel like that's the best Outbreak can be. Obviously, maybe zombify the maps or whatever, but I think Modern Warfare Zombies, that extraction zombies might have more depth to it, because then, like you said, we could have, forget the stash limit, you just go in with whatever. You could have different backpacks, you could have different armor plates, you can have different things that go on, so I think that has a higher ceiling than Outbreak does.
All right, fair enough. Well, Mr. Nuts, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and chatting with me. It was a good time. I've been wanting to say that like for the whole hour. I actually planned to say Mr. Nuts at the end of the episode, but
it's better than what the people call me on stream sometimes.
What do they call you on stream?
They call me the Nutters.
Oh my God,
like
no.
Nutters.
Oh, that's okay. Well, I appreciate your time, and thank you for going a little bit longer. I missed an episode this past week because just life and stuff. So hopefully the people will enjoy a little extra time from you. So hopefully you can come back again and chat after launch, or maybe closer to launch when we get some more information. I think we had really good conversation. I like talking about the nuances here. So thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your time, and see you guys in the next one.
Thank you for having me on. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, man. All right. I'll talk to you later.
See ya.